Thank you so much for joining us, Shane Smith. This is truly a pleasure, Media Person of the Year. And of course, we're all very big fans of you as journalists, and your reports are something that inspires all of us to keep going on. So this is really a great opportunity for us to be interviewing you.
Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
First things first, we're very excited that A, you're coming to India, and B, you're coming via the Times Group. So it's a really great opportunity for all of us here to be working closer with a new age media company that we all think will define the future. What's your sense of the Indian market? What do you hope to create, and why do you think your cutting edge, really out there kind of reportage is okay in a market like India?
Well, I think the thing that's most exciting about India for us is its tremendously large young population.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's the youngest population on Earth per size.
Sure.
And so when you have a massive millennial population like that, there's a tremendous thirst for content. We're the largest producer of millennial content. And it doesn't have to be just news, it's music, it's food, it's lifestyle, it's travel, it's everything. So that's really exciting to bring all of the content that we're doing to India, but also to be creating content in India. Right. Around all of those verticals, around the food of India, the travel within India, music in India, politics in India, and then bring that to the rest of the world. So that sort of crossroads of sharing content. I think also the Indian population is much more cosmopolitan, the younger generation, and so they're looking at everything from around the world, as well as wanting to have more outside content coming in. So all of that is very exciting. I think we're in the right place at the right time. We have a very big following already in India, and actually the partnership with Times of India just allows us to grow that.
Yeah, but you're not unfamiliar with the Indian market. Do you think Vice's reporting skills, which is very bold, which is very out there and fearless, is something that can actually be done on the Indian market?
I think we're in 34 countries, and every country is different.
Sure.
And it's important to be respectful in every country to the traditions of that country.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a changing of the guard in media. I think the younger population is forcing change. It's forcing change in America. It's forcing change here in Europe. It's forcing change in India. So I think, yes, in answer to your question, I think there's a different tonality.
Sure.
There's a different language. But I think that at the end of the day, it's going to resonate.
You in the past have made a statement saying that objective news is impossible. Having said that, how are you ensuring on a day-to-day sustainable kind of business model and putting news at the forefront, apart from, of course, all your other content,
Sure.
that Vice remains bold, cutting edge,
Sure.
and zany?
Well, I think subjectivity versus objectivity, it doesn't mean we don't get both sides of the story.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get both sides of the story. I think, the holy grail of objective journalism was, in many cases, for example, an American goes to Afghanistan, you're going to have a point of view
Sure.
that's different from an Afghani. If an Afghani is there giving the news, an American, they can be so-called objective, but they're going to be completely subjective because they're human beings. So I think that what we came after it is to try to have an unattainable goal of this objectivity seemed to us to be a voice of God, type of news that we don't want to do. So we are human, we are subjective, and we go in and we tell both sides of the story and say, let the viewer decide for themselves.
But how do you maintain the balance between staying true to true to your job,
Yeah.
and ensuring that you still have advertisers on?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's looking for engagement with millennials, and it's very difficult because a lot of traditional media, especially in the West, failed. So, for example, in America, there was a lot of collusion with the government over the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. And so for us, what we do is we say, look, we want to go to Iraq, Afghanistan, and press record. We don't go in with a preconceived political idea. And I think that the collusion between mainstream media, and for example, war, left a whole generation disenfranchised. So when we came along and said, we're going to just do things a different way, there was a massive audience that came with us.
Right. Your expansion into 44 countries, right, in a matter of, let's say, a a year or so?
4 months.
4 months.
In 4 months, we expanded
In
to 44 countries.
In 4 months. Do you think at some level, because you are having multiple partnerships, right? And it would be fair to make an assumption that not all partners would be on the same page as you. We
Right.
don't know, right?
Sure.
We're going to try it out.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to assume that at this point in time, Vice is, a little bit under, under pressure because it has to maintain its original authentic voice while also, manage these partnerships very strategically.
Right.
And so do you think at some level you fear dilution of what you stand for?
I don't think so. First of all, I vote 95% of the board, so if they're under pressure, they're under pressure from me. So I don't feel pressure for myself. I feel the opposite of pressure. I feel excitement. I mean, we've had joint ventures and have joint ventures in 34 countries. We're used to it. The majority of the companies that we do business with don't want us to change at all because that's why we're doing business together. You don't want to say, oh, Vice is great, let's do business together. Oh, you should change. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think, obviously there's cultural or in some cases religious or in some cases economic sensibilities in different countries that are different. But we work, look, we've been in China for quite some time. We're here in France, which is, it's difficult for some Western countries to go in.
Sure.
And so, I don't see it as being a problem. The only pressure that we have really that I feel is throughout all of this growth, keeping the quality control quite high, keeping that level of production quite high, keeping this level of the quality of the stories quite high.
Right. And how do you plan to, do that QC across, all the markets that you've entered?
Well, the good news is we've been shooting in India, for example, for quite some time.
Okay.
So we have great producers, great hosts, great associate producers, editors. So I think on the
already in place.
Already in place.
Oh, okay.
So I think on the water carrier side, we have people that we've, stringers, story ideas. So we have people that we've worked with, we've vetted in the past. We know that we like to work with them. So that makes it a lot easier. And then on the business side, obviously, Times of India has a great infrastructure, so we don't have to make those mistakes. Navigating the political waters and all of those things. So I think that's why we always say we're in France. So we say union fait la force. Together we are stronger. And I think what we're going to bring from a new media perspective and Times of India, I think it's going to be very strong.
There's, of course, a rumor going on. I think you've also made a public statement talking about the fact that you have to make a decision between going public or selling out. Where are you, when you're weighing both those options, and which way are you tilting towards?
The only reason I said it is because, as a business owner, most of my staff are shareholders or will become shareholders. It's important to remember that a lot of companies are built to sell, and very soon selling will stop being an option for us. So then we have to either go public or not, stay private and dividend out the cash. But it's a business decision that I make, but I would want to make it with all of my partners. But very soon, probably by the end of this year, we'll be too expensive to be purchased. And so at that point, we have to look at either going to public markets or just dividending out money.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Rumor also has it that Disney is aggressively speaking with you to completely acquire you. Is that actually accurate?
Well, I think a number of companies over the past 2 years have been trying to acquire us. We're growing, exponentially, top line, bottom line.
Your valuation currently stands at what, 4.5 billion?
Yes, now it's north of that. That was the last peg.
Yeah.
And so, people have been trying to buy us for quite some time, and we value our independence, and we've never said yes. Actually, people have been trying to buy us since Vice began. But right now, we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about rolling out the TV, because each television station we launch, it becomes more content, more audience, and then more value.
I have a very editorial question to ask you.
Sure.
How does Vice, coin in on their subjects?
Well, we have 5,000 contributors around the world,
Sure.
and so we have pretty much every story that you can possibly imagine, politically, economically, socially, medical science, technology. So it's a great position to be in, that we can pick and choose, and some go to online and some go to mobile and some go to TV. And eventually what we want to have is all three screens, one screen OTT, all the time in all of our countries, with a sort of best of approach. So we can take the best of Mexico, the best of India, the best of Australia, the best of America, the best of Europe, and have a sort of, a magazine, a news magazine, if you will, of all of that from all over the world.
And the other question, I think, which is the popular question, people said, oh, if you're meeting Shane, you should ask him, is how do you get access to the locations that, you go to and the stories you do?
We ask. I think, a lot of people say, how did you embed with ISIS? And no one had asked to embed with ISIS. We were the only ones.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's simple.
Same, yeah. And the same thing with North Korea. We asked to go there. We went to President Obama and said, we know that prisons are one of your biggest concerns. Let's go shoot in prisons. And so a lot of times it's just coming up with a very good pitch and then going to the people and saying, here's our pitch. And basically a lot of people, fear keeps them back. Oh, they're going to say no, or they're going to, whatever. Well, they can only say no. If they say no, they say no. But if they say yes, then you...
Going back in time, flashing back to when Vice was not Vice, and it was a magazine,
Sure.
Voice of Montreal, yeah. At that point in time, did you ever have the vision that you're going to build something like this, or,
No.
were there a series of accidents?
Yeah, it was a series of accidents.
Okay.
I mean, we were young guys. It was a recession. There were no jobs. There were no great magazines in Canada, national magazine. We just wanted a job, and we wanted to make a magazine. And then when we went down to New York, we just wanted to, pay ourselves. We wanted to have enough money that we could pay our rent. And then when the dot-com revolution happened, we were there. When the sort of New York cultural explosion happened, we were there, Brooklyn. And then as we went out into the rest of the world, that sort of the movement of Gen Y from niche to general media, we sort of traveled with that. And so we've been in the right place at the right time, I've got to say.
And that's a really humble answer, right? But there must be more to the story on how you put all these building blocks together.
Well, we like to be fast moving. We like to be dynamic.
What is the essential difference between, let's say, you guys and the rest of the big names?
Yeah. I think every few years we take our interns or our young stars, our young, employees, and we say, here's the network, or here's Vice.com, or big assets. And it sounds logical, but when you're giving a $10 million budget to make a TV series to someone who's never made a TV series, who's 23 years old, no one else in the world is going to do that. And sometimes it works, and when it does, it's amazing. And sometimes it doesn't work, but when it doesn't work, we learn. And so that's why we're so fast-paced and so dynamic. And that, I think, it differentiates us from our competitors.
So what are you saying, that giving new projects and out there projects to the young and experienced is...
Well, I think basically is, if you're going to make content for a millennial audience, young people have to shoot it, they have to cut it, they have to come up with the stories, because there's a language there. And I think if you look at TV, for example, when you say, okay, we want to do something that's millennial focused, they bring in older people from TV who have run shows before. I've done this, cameraman, everybody's like, oh, I've done this 50 times before. Then it's going to look and sound
geriatric.
And yeah, exactly. And so for us, we say, okay, if it's going to be for a millennial audience, let them make it. And in many cases, that means they don't have a lot of experience.
Right. You're also, I think the only CEO or the only business person who's also in front of the camera.
Sure.
Right? How does that work?
Well, I always say, look, if you're going to make cars, you better love cars. If you're going to make, harmonicas, you better love harmonicas, because it's what you make, it's what you do. You better be passionate about it. Too many times in media, you have lawyers or MBAs running media companies. They don't have a feel for the content. I spend my time 50% making content and 50% doing business, because if we're a content company, I have to understand content. I have to understand the editors I talk to, the producers, the hosts. I have to understand what's a good story versus a bad story. If I don't understand the content, then it's going to become cut adrift, because so many times they think Pepsi is the same as selling Crest, is the same as selling Samsung TVs. No, every market is different. Every market is unique, and especially in content. So for me, I feel it's essential. And when anyone asks me that question, I'm amazed that no other CEOs of content companies actually make content, because that's the business that they're in. The fact that I'm the only one is crazy.
And you say you're in the content business, but what I increasingly found in Cannes this year, and of course the last few years as well, is there's a tech takeover.
Yeah.
And we're suddenly discussing only content.
Yeah.
And when you meet the social behemoths such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, this time the focus seemed to be only video, right? That's the big game. That's where the dollars are, and so everybody's focused on that. My question to you is, as a man who understands content very well and has been successful in that, how much content? It looks like we're going to have a supply glut, and how much content can the world at large consume, and how are consumers going to navigate through that content?
Well, I think that's a good question. There's never been more content created, but there's also never been more platforms and more demand. I don't know about a glut. I think if you look at YouTube versus HBO or there's always going to be the mass versus the premium.
Sure.
And so I think, in answer to your question, there's going to be all things for all people on all platforms, and who's going to do well will be in curation, will be in sort of the high-end premium curation of sort of top quality content, which is what we want to get into, because everyone else is going to fight it out, not only for the content and eyeballs, but that programmatic pricing is going to force. It's very difficult to make money, in the old style of hundreds of millions of video views at very small CPMs. So we realized that early, and we said, okay, well, let's go to the more sort of premium audience and the more sort of premium content. And I think you're going to see companies coming out, and some will make scale plays and some will make premium plays. And I think the premium plays will be the brands that stay around longer, and the scale plays will not.
So if I asked you to crystal gaze and tell me which of these big stars today in the social space have a good bet,
Well, I think Facebook has a lock on online mobile video. I think Google has a lock on online video. I think there's going to be consolidation in the remaining players, and I think you're going to see consolidation in the traditional media space, because as TV consolidates, there'll be some movement from the holding companies. And then there'll be a lot of new players. The problem is the infrastructure needed for a global media brand, for editing offices in 40, 50 countries. It's in the billions of dollars, and it's very difficult to start new brands. I think we got in at the right time, because we're a brand, a media brand that's recognizable. And as the noise grows, it's going to be harder and harder to be a recognizable brand.
What was the trigger for you to launch Viceland, your TV network? Because you could just, license out your content and be a successful model as well.
That's a good question. The reason why is because actually we were in Cannes at MIP, and we do a lot of research. And the research told us that the number one cohort that goes out and spends money on food is Gen Y. But there's no Gen Y food content, millennial content. So we made some food shows, and everybody blew up, and they were going to buy our shows, and we said, oh, this is great. We can make a lot of money selling TV. But everyone knows where we have to get to in media. We have to get to TV, online, mobile, OTT, all being programmed at the same time with innovative monetization, meaning the 30-second spot through ad blocking and DVR and all this stuff is going away. We have to figure out new models. Okay, so everybody knows we have to get there, but no one's actually moving towards that. They're trying to keep on to mobile staying in mobile, online staying online, TV and TV.
In silos, okay.
So we said we want to be platform agnostic, all three screens everywhere. Also, 75% of the world's money is still in television. Sure. So we said the only way we can get to program three screens simultaneously is to own the platforms for those three screens. The only way you can come up with innovative monetization, if I sell my TV, I can make a lot of money, but I'm not innovating, I'm not changing, I'm not being the first on the pointy end of the spear. So we said if we can actually own the platform, then we can actually innovate not only with monetization but with programming. Because unless you own the network, you can't take that network's content and put it online or in mobile without going to the people who are buying it and they say no. So we realized very early on that we had to control the means of distribution, and therefore we had to own our own networks.
So what does that mean? That you'll stop licensing out to other people who want your content?
Yeah, I think eventually we're going to just only have JV partners. in various countries, and then that's the only people who are going to get the content.
Sure. So you've got now all 3 screens going.
Yes.
What is the plan going forward? Or the plan right now is to just get your act right in all these markets.
Yes, correct. I think, look, TV is new for us and it's going very well. It's a big business. Online we're fairly competent at, but mobile is, the most volatile. And so we're spending a lot of time concentrating on mobile because it needs the most sort of attention because it's so fast.
Yeah.
But TV is more work. We've hired a lot of people that you go in and just say, we set up production, we set up the monetization and the innovation, we set up our labs, and so we know what we're doing. But like you said, you're just in the just quality control in all those now 52 countries. Whereas in mobile, we have to sort of keep our focus on how dynamic the platforms are changing.
Who has the last say in all these JVs?
Me.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well,
that would be an important call.
On the Vice side, sure. Generally, we keep creative for everything that we do, just because we don't want to
hurt your
dilute
brand.
our brand.
Yeah, sure. So but in every market, it'll still be called Vice.
Yeah.
If you have now 55, 54 JV partners,
Yeah.
right? In that market, you're going to retain your brand name.
Yes,
right?
yes, correct.
So they won't tag their name on to your brand.
No.
Because it's a JV. Is
Correct.
that right?
But something, for example, in India, we might do Vice Now.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Oh, okay. Also, one last question. Everybody talks about your work culture and how different it is, and how. I remember when you were hosting the Vice party, the whole world here in Cannes was talking about, we have to go to the Vice party, we have to get an invite because it's going to be a wild party, it's going to be really out there. So similarly, you also hear about Vice's work culture, and it's really out there. Can you tell me a little bit about the culture and what you do in terms of black belt training for the people you get in, just so that they're on the same page and as edgy and zany as you are, right?
Well, I think, speaking again back to the millennial audience and how we recruit, we went to the colleges and we said, give us your best shooters, give us your best cutters, the technical colleges, and they would come, and then Spike Jones, our creative director, would then put them through a training process, and in that process we developed sort of a cult, because we have our own way of storytelling, we have our own way of doing things, and we noticed that we could go into the office at midnight on a Sunday and it would be packed. So we started putting bars and restaurants in the office, and theaters and a school, and so we make it into a little campus, a little community, and then people sort of, in some places it's the coolest bar in town, so everybody wants to hang out there, everyone wants to get in. So the line between work and play sort of blurs, and people are very passionate about it. So it's kind of like a bit of a cult.
Well, what's your how do you recruit people? What is the minimum core competency that is required to be?
I recruit people based on passion. If they're passionate about something, then generally they're going to do well at it. And so we believe passion breeds success.
In terms of the news business, I've been told, I've heard that the one network that you really respect the most is Al Jazeera. Am I correct on that front?
Yeah, I think what they've done in a very difficult news market, whenever you start to do news, everyone attacks you, especially other news platforms. Sure. And they did get attacked a lot, and I think that they did a good job. Obviously in America it was difficult, but I think that they came out and offered a different perspective, because a lot of time, speaking of objectivity and subjectivity, you have people going to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria from an American perspective, and it's good to have a different perspective from the Arab world.
Is Vice profitable, and if yes, then when did it start becoming profitable?
So Vice has been profitable since day one. As 3 poor kids who started a magazine learned, if you don't make money, you go out of business. So we always paid out of profits, our development. We've never not been profitable.
On that note, thank you so much, Shane, and many congratulations on being named the Media Person of the Year.
Thank
Truly
you very
worth
much.
it, and we're looking forward to your entry in India.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to coming.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.